Ralph Northam's victory in Virginia last night wasn't the extent of the beating that the Republicans took there. It also took place in the legislature as well. Before the election, Republicans enjoyed a 66-34 supermajority in the House of Delegates. Democrats picked up 15 of the 17 seats that they would need to flip that over. 3 seats, all currently held by Republicans, are currently too close to call. And I believe since we made that graphic, I think 1 more seat went to the Democrats. So there's still no guarantee, these are too close to call, whether it might flip, but it still might at this point. Regardless, even if the rest go to Republicans, this is the largest Democratic gain in a single election in the state since 1899.
That's more than 2 centuries ago.
That's a long time. That's a long time ago.
The last century was the 20th century. The one before that was the 19th century. That was the 19th.
It's weird how that works. Now, what's interesting is that that's a big flip. You don't normally see that since 1899. It looks like, but they're still perhaps going to be in the minority, even though Democratic candidates outperformed Republicans by about 9.4 percentage points. Which is significant. I mean, we are a country of 51, 52 to 48, those sorts of races. When you win by almost 10 points statewide, you sort of expect that you might have control of that state's legislature, but you don't in a lot of states, and especially not in Virginia because of the gerrymandering that's been going on there and around the country for decades at this point. And that's one of the things where Northam, regardless of where he stands on the other issues, might be very significant. Because previously, you've had Republican legislatures and Republican governors to sign on to these redistricting plans that are very often racist, designed to suppress people's ability to influence politics. And it looks like that probably won't happen this next time around, which isn't just good for Northam. It's not just good for the Democrats that won, but for anyone who seeks statewide or state legislature an election in the future in Virginia. Like, you need to have fair maps if you're gonna have a chance there, and we might actually get that in the next few years.
Well, they say that the Supreme Court is gonna decide on this gerrymandering thing soon, and
there's a case that in the near future could actually re-raise this.
And they're saying that it looked like this conservative court was giving favor to the people saying that gerrymandering is illegal, right? And they shouldn't do it. So
that's surprising.
That is surprising, right? Because those guys are freaking fascists, right? On the court, they don't give a shit. So yeah, it's weird that they're doing that. So who knows? Maybe we'll get rid of gerrymandering. I know in California, didn't Arnold Schwarzenegger do a thing where we now have to draw the districts correctly?
That sounds familiar. I wasn't around for that, but that does sound familiar. There's been a few state experiments where they'll either have particular tests for how fair the map is. There's also, I think it's Arizona, maybe Nevada, that has an independent commission, a nonpartisan commission that has to go over it. I mean, the idea that you could allow the party that controls the state currently to choose what the map will be for next time, who thinks that's a good idea other than those people?
That would be it.
Yeah, and this is one of those issues that it's like a foundational issue, like money in politics, where these sorts of issues affect the outcomes we have on all of the other more specific issues, like will we be able to raise the minimum wage, that sort of thing. Well, I mean, if you have the people who are winning elections based on biased maps or because of corporate donations, that affects not just one topic, but it affects all of the topics. Which is why if you can fix these sorts of issues, if you can get money out of politics, if you can stop the gerrymandering, then that has ripple effects, like a virtuous cycle on so many other things. And this is just Virginia, but it's certainly, considering the extent of the gerrymandering here, that is good to see.
Well, and you want to talk about how we've mentioned there's some silver linings in this whole thing. One of the things that the Trump administration has done to a lot of the populace. Now, there's some people that like to pretend that everything was just hunky-dory and our democracy was flawless until Trump showed up. But a lot of people realize that's certainly not the case. It's a broken system that led us to Trump. So now people are talking about stuff like gerrymandering more than ever before. People are talking about how for the second time in less than 20 years, the popular vote winner doesn't sit in the White House. People are talking about a lot of that stuff and how all this stuff, which is just corruption, should have been gone years ago.
Yeah.
And you're even seeing alternative voting methods on the ballot in certain states, ranked choice and stuff like that. So I think that we're recognizing that this democracy we need to spread everywhere else. We haven't really mastered it here at all and have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, we have this sort of popular myth that things, I guess, the system was fucked up, but it mostly worked for a couple hundred years. that is a myth. Like it was always rigged to benefit certain people, advantage them over others. We just sort of pretended that if we keep our head down, if we work hard, things will be fine. And if you were a particular sort of white person, for a long time that might even be the case. But for a lot of Americans, it was never true, and it's certainly not true now, and people seem to be realizing that.
If you like this clip of the Young Turks, you know there's a whole live 2-hour show, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern every day, and you can download it or stream it and watch it without ads if you become a member. tytnetwork.com/join.